The train station promise. Grace and James met as teenagers in a small, quiet town. Grace loved to read under a tall oak tree in the park, her face often hidden behind the pages of a book. James, a budding artist, would sit nearby with his sketchbook, capturing the beauty of the world around him. Their paths crossed one sunny afternoon when James asked if he could draw her. At first, Grace hesitated, but his shy smile won her over. That day, as James sketched, they talked about their dreams. Grace wanted to become a teacher and share her love of books. James dreamed of traveling the world and painting. Over time, their friendship deepened, and they fell in love. They spent months together, dreaming of a future full of possibilities. But their happiness was interrupted when James received a letter. He had been drafted into the army. "I'll come back," he promised, holding her hand tightly at the train station. "Wait for me." Grace nodded, her eyes filled with tears. "I will." For the next year, they exchanged letters. Each one was filled with love and hope. But then, the letters stopped. Grace wrote to him again and again, but there was no reply. Days turned into months, and months into years. Eventually, Grace had to accept the possibility that James might never return. Grace remained in their small town, teaching at the local school. She found joy in her work and comfort in the memories of James. She often visited the oak tree where they had first met and the train station where they had said goodbye. Many people encouraged her to move on. Friends introduced her to other men, but none of them compared to James. "I'll wait," she would say, her voice steady but her heart heavy. James's life took a different turn. During the war, he was injured in a battle and spent months recovering in a distant hospital. His letters to Grace were lost, and when he tried to write again, he discovered he had forgotten her address. After the war, James returned to their town, but Grace was nowhere to be found. Believing she had moved away or married, James left the town. He settled in a nearby city and worked as an art teacher. But he never forgot Grace. Her face, her laughter, and the promises they had made stayed with him. 30 years later, Grace had developed a habit of visiting the train station every Sunday afternoon. It was a place that brought her peace, even as it reminded her of the past. She loved watching people reunite with loved ones, imagining what it would be like if James returned. One Sunday, as she sat her day on a bench reading, she noticed an older man standing near the platform. He had gray hair and wore a simple coat. Something about him seemed familiar. The man turned and their eyes met. Grace felt her heart skip a beat. "Grace," the man said, his voice trembling. She stood up slowly, her book falling to the ground. "James." For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the years melting away. Then, they rushed into each other's arms. "I thought I lost you forever," Grace said, her voice breaking. "I tried to find you," James replied. "I thought you had moved on." They sat her day down together, tears streaming down their faces, and began to talk. James explained how he had lost her letters and how, after the war, he had searched for her but found nothing. Grace shared how she had waited, coming to the train station every week, hoping for his return. "I'm so sorry for the time we lost," James said, his voice filled with regret. Grace smiled through her tears. "It doesn't matter now. You're here." Their reunion was the beginning of a new chapter. Grace and James decided to make up for the years they had lost. They spent hours talking, rediscovering the connection they had shared. James started painting again, inspired by Grace's presence. He painted the oak tree where they had met, the train station where they had reunited, and many other scenes from their shared past. Grace encouraged him to open a small art gallery in their town. They named the gallery Second Chances. It became a place where people could come to see James's work and hear their story. The gallery brought the community together, and Grace and James became local legends. Their love story inspired others to believe in hope and perseverance. They showed that true love could withstand the test of time. Grace and James spent the rest of their days together, creating new memories while cherishing the old ones. They often returned to the train station, not to wait, but to reflect on the journey that had brought them back to each other. Their story was a testament to the power of love, patience, and faith. And as they grew older, they remained as inseparable as they had been under the oak tree all those years ago.